So what's up mga Kap? Kumusta po kayo? And welcome again to our When in Halifax. So welcome to our 11th Kap. Ayan mga Kap. So we are live dito sa ating YouTube channel. Tama ba? Ayan. So I'm just checking mga Kap. So what's up mga Kap? Kumusta? Perfect. So we are live. Live na live mga Kap. Ayan. So we are live dito sa ating kapihan. Although nag-e-error yung kanina. Wait lang ah. Grabe. Na-pressure naman ako kasi in last minute mga Kap, to be honest, nag-error ang aking streaming software which is the Streamlabs. I don't know what's the reason. Pero sabi ko dapat to tuloy na tuloy kasi ito yung ating inaabangan. So anyway mga Kap, welcome again to our kapihan sa When in Halifax, your virtual kapihan dito sa ating When in Halifax Kap Unity mga Kap. So this is a very special guest kasi yung guest natin, aside from ikikwento niya ang kanyang journey from student up to permanent resident, ikikwento niya yung Buhay Canada, Buhay Nurse, ay katrabaho ko dito sa Pilipinas. Katrabaho ko to sa Bicol. So nagkatrabaho kami sa isang hospital and of course my close friend dito sa Halifax. So it's very special guest. So anyway mga Kap, before we start, I just want you to join our kapihan by simply clicking the link of the Zoom link. Just click the link and join our kapihan. Or you can watch live. If you're watching live on our YouTube channel or on Facebook, just comment your questions, especially to all nurses na nangangarap na magtrabaho dito, nangangarap manirahan, at nangangarap na maging RN. Kasi dito sa ating kapihan ay ikikwento ni Kuya Raymond ang kanyang journey at ano ba yung mga challenges along the way sa ating kapihan. Sa ating Buhay Nurse. Ayan. So we're just waiting for all our guests. So mga Kap, please join us. Hinihintay ka namin. If you're watching right now, don't waste this opportunity mga Kap to join our conversation. Join our kapihan mga Kap. So because once na nandito ka sa loob ng Zoom link, you have the chance to ask question sa ating special guest. So please join our, maraming mga nag-join pa. Join our Zoom link mga Kap. Join lang. So just click the link or the Zoom link. You just need to download the Zoom and then you can join. So please join the kapihan mga Kap. And ayan. So before we start, gusto ko lang kumustahin ang mga nasa loob ng kapihan. Mark, kumusta?
Okay naman, Boss Joey.
Yan.
Kap Joey, sorry. Okay
and
naman.
Mark, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, Mark, ano yung nakaka-excite sa iyo bakit tayo tawag nito itong topic na to? Ano nakaka-excite sa topic na to, Mark?
Gusto ko lang malaman yung naging pathway ni Sir Raymond kung paano siya naging nakapasok sa Dalhousie, nakakuha siya ng masteral, no? Hindi ko kasi alam yan kasi ako as nurse din sa Philippines. Ang kinuha ko lang diploma program, 'di ba? So, yun para magiging way ko para maging PR. Pero hindi ko alam na paano mo i-defend yung kumuha ng masteral in applying student permit. Yun ang aking interesting gusto ko malaman. And then yung pathway niya to become, PR and then working as a nurse here in Nova Scotia.
Correct. Thank you. So yun yung nakaka-excite. So we're just waiting for Sir Raymond. Wait lang po. Wait lang Kaps ha.
Hello, Kap.
Ayun. Sir Rad, kumusta Rad? Kumusta Sir Rad ang iyong araw? Ayan. Nakami si Sir. Si Ailey, thank you very much for joining. Ayan, kumusta Ailey? Taga saan po?
Dubai!
Ayan, shout out sa lahat ng mga Kaps natin dyan sa Dubai. Ayan, kumusta naman ang araw nyo? Kumusta ang weather dyan?
Mainit. Medyo makulimlim. medyo may sandstorm.
May sandstorm, ayun.
Oo, medyo lang.
Medyo. Pero naka-adjust naman.
Matagal na sa Middle East Cup kaya kaya gusto na rin mag-Canada.
Ayun. Para sabi na from sunstorm to snowstorm.
Yes.
Ayan.
Saka nagkakaroon na kasi ng yung age limit. Kasi sa sales ako,
Apo.
gusto ko ulit mag-work, may age limit na. 39 years old na ako, ang gusto nila 18 to 32 lang.
Oh.
Diba? Nakakainis.
Correct. Yun yung pinakamaganda with Canada kasi hindi matter yung age actually as long as you're able. So napaka-interesting.
Yung age.
Yes. Thank you, Eileen. And what you expect po dito sa ating kapihan ngayon?
Ano ba?
Sabay. Mga tips lang, mga tips. Ayan. Si Rad. Rad, kumusta, Rad? Ayan. So, ayan. Rad, kumusta? Nakamute ka, sir. Ayan mga Kaps. So if you're joining right now, please share this live streaming mga Kap. And if you cannot join, okay lang yan. You can watch our live streaming on our YouTube channel and sa ating Facebook account. Ayan, hello po from Philippines. Hindi pa makapasok sa Zoom. Hindi ako pwede magkape. 10 p.m. na, sabi ni Mara. Ayan. And Sir Raymond is nandito na si Sir Raymond. Sir Raymond, kumusta po? Ayan.
Hi, testing. Can you hear me?
Ayun! Sir Raymond, kumusta? Ayan.
Ayos lang.
Ayan. So yun, sabi ko nga Sir Raymond, our kapihan dito is very special kasi aside from ikikwento ni Sir Raymond yung kanyang journey from Philippines to Canada, from student to PR, ay ito ay katrabaho ko mismo sa nurse. Katrabaho ko sa hospital mismo sa Bicol. Ayan. So it's very special and close friend dito sa Halifax, Canada or Nova Scotia. So it's very special guest. Yun. Sir Raymond, kumusta po?
Ayos naman. I mean, ever since nung sa COVID, medyo lang tayo ngayon, medyo doble ingat lang. Although thank God at least yung cases naman dito here in Nova Scotia hindi naman siya ganun kasing rampant compared to other places. But still, I mean, extra precaution lang. I mean, yun lang naman ang magagawa natin in this upcoming days.
Yes, ayan. So salute sa lahat ng mga nurses, especially po yung mga Filipino nurses natin all throughout the world. Ayan. So a big shout out sa lahat ng mga nurses na talagang nandoon kayo yung mga literal na frontliners. Ayun, Sir Raymond, thank you very much for that. Sir Raymond, kasi dito sa ating kapihan, Sir Raymond, we start from sharing the journey. It's like timeline. Sir Raymond, can you share to us, Sir Raymond? Kasi it's very unique yung journey kasi ang tinake mo, Sir Raymond, is a student pathway and master's degree. And yung master's degree mo sa isang prestigious university which is a Dalhousie dito sa Halifax. So, Sir Raymond, can you share to us yung iyong timeline with regards to your journey po dito from Philippines to Canada?
Okay, so with regards sa journey ko coming here in Canada, so actually it's been ang tagal na. It's been like more than like 9 years. So, okay, let's start back on the Philippines. So, previously, kumbaga nasa Philippines ako when I was still working back home in the Philippines. It was around 2008 to 2010 when I started working back home in the Philippines. Then at the same time, actually going to Canada, hindi siya yung talagang pinaka-main plan ko talaga. My main plan was to really go to the US. That's why even back home in the Philippines, I decided to take the NCLEX examination. But at the same time, the processing for nurses, I mean, going to the US, medyo matagal. So for me, I have to find another way. Like, I mean, kung paano ba ako makakapunta, I mean, abroad. So even though as much as I want to go to the US, so I decided, okay, sige, let's take other routes. So I remember when I take the NCLEX, dun sa testing center ng NCLEX, meron din sila yung for Abu Dhabi, yung Health Authority of Abu Dhabi. So I think after a week, since fresh pa yung memory ko in reviewing the NCLEX, so I decided to take the examination for the Abu Dhabi, like yung Health Authority of Abu Dhabi, yung HAAD. So after, by God's grace, nakapasa naman. So habang may application sa US, sige, apply din sa ibang bansa. So nag-try din ako sa Abu Dhabi, kaso I guess hindi lang nagkasundo dun sa contract. So to the point na one of my family and relatives suggested, you should try, instead na maghanap ka ng employment, try mo mag-aral ulit. And at that time, I think it was like 2010, I was actually doing a master's program in Ateneo de Naga. So sinuggest sa akin is hanap ka ng provinces in Canada na where you could apply for your master's. But at the same time, a friend of mine suggested na if you're going to apply in a university, make sure na hanap ka nung medyo yung malayo-layo ng konti. Huwag ka dun sa yung pinaka mismo mga main provinces, like yung ibang mga kilalang provinces in Canada. So I think I was just looking in the internet and just looking on different universities in different provinces. Somehow medyo nag-click yung Dalhousie University. So yung program nila, even though it's different, in the curriculum within the nursing sa Pilipinas, but I guess, in terms of yung studies, medyo na-attract ako doon. So I think that's the time na I applied online. So 2010, at that time, the application is different compared to, this present time na. Kasi nung time na hindi pa masyadong uso yung mga multimedia, yung mga sa internet yung ano. So at that time, even though conversations and documents are sent through emails, in terms of meet up, magmi-meeting, like the interview, it was actually through phone. I remember they called that one like a mercurial teleconferencing. So you still have to prepare for the interview, and at the same time, you have to pass all the requirements. Hindi naman ganun kabigat yung requirements nila, but as long as you pass the requirements and they're happy with the requirements, then they're okay with it. And also the interview part. So when I was accepted at Dalhousie University, I was supposed to go 2011 fall, pero hindi pa dumating yung visa ko, yung student visa ko. At that time, I think it was still, on process pa. So I have to email the university and tell them na, is it possible instead of attending the fall semester, can I attend the winter semester? So pumayag naman sila. That's why I remember, I think it was December 2011, December 28. Yun yung time na umalis ako from the Philippines going to Canada, particularly in Nova Scotia. So, and the rest is history. Like, studying at Dalhousie until, working as an LPN and becoming an RN.
Wow. So yung Sir Raymond, gusto ko lang i-highlight dun, Sir Raymond, is DIY yung application mo and ikaw lang yung gumawa and through online lang yung application mo.
Oh yeah, so
yun. So yun. So sa mga nanonood ngayon, so gusto kong i-highlight yun because marami man nagtatanong, pwede bang mag-student through DIY? Pwede bang walang consultant? So eto, nandito si Mark Mortal. Mark Mortal is also a DIY applicant. Nandito na din sa Nova Scotia. Nandito si Sir Raymond, DIY way back 2010. There's a big difference yung application ngayon noong 2010. Pero ang point dito is pwede mong DIY. Sir Raymond, gusto ko lang i-highlight din ano yung mga tips mo sa lahat ng mga Kaps natin o sa mga viewers natin na nagpaplanong mag-DIY?
Actually, when it comes to studying abroad, I would definitely recommend na DIY rather na getting a consultant. Kasi when it comes dun sa application sa study abroad, ang direct contact mo is the university itself. So, I don't think nagbabago naman yung sistema doon given that since sila yung direct na kausap mo or all of your communications are directly dun sa university. So you just need to comply whatever requirement that the university is asking you, whether it's an IELTS or yung mga grades mo or even other documents. As long as you provide those documents, they would be able to provide you the necessary information and documents. Like in my time sa akin kasi once I provided all the documents, then they already given me the letter of acceptance, which is yun ang pinaka-importante, like especially for student applicants, na if you want to be accepted in a university and if you're applying for a student visa, definitely you have to have like the letter of invitation or acceptance letter from the university stating that, oh, we're accepting you to be a student in this university for this year. So as long as you have that one, then that's good. Then at the same time, you just need to comply with the requirement what the university is asking.
Tama.
So definitely for me, if you could do it DIY, much better. Rather than, I mean, it's still okay to get a consultant, but the only thing is you have to pay for that one. Kung kaya naman isabit yung mga requirements. Basically, the requirements, you just follow whatever the university is asking. Yun lang naman yung hinihingi nila doon eh. And with regards to, I mean, getting your student visa, sa online, I mean, you could just follow the instruction. Like in my case, what I did is, once I get my acceptance from the university, I just follow the process of application for the student visa in the Philippines. So, medyo ano lang siya, I mean, tsatsagaan, given that, I mean, in every country, they have their own criteria, or at the same time, meron silang specific requirements when it comes to assessing their application. So, tsagaan lang. But, I mean, sa akin kasi is, once you get the acceptance from the university, it's good as go na siya.
Ayun. So, yun ang pinaka-importante. Yung sabi ko nga, Sir Raymond, it's very unique kasi yung story mo because hindi ka diploma, hindi program yung kinuha mo, kundi master's degree. At hindi lang basta sa na school, kundi Dalhousie University. Sir Raymond, looks like para sa perspective yung the way mo kinikwento, Sir Raymond, parang andali lang. Pero gusto ko, Sir Raymond, malaman, ano yung mga challenges naman na na-encounter mo sa pag-connect, sa pagkuha ng LOA or letter of acceptance sa Dalhousie? Madali ba talaga or may mga challenges naman na part? And ano yun?
Actually, when it comes to getting the letter of acceptance, ang challenges lang dun sa ibang mga requirements is yung passing, yung kung ano yung hinihingi ng mga university. Like, I think one good example for international students would be the IELTS. So, it depends on what department or what program you're attending. Meron silang mga criteria or requirement for IELTS. Hindi ko masasabi na band score of 7 lahat. It's more of like, it depends on the department you're applying. I know yung ibang mga programs, particularly in health sciences, engineering, medyo mataas ang kanilang mga criteria. So, doon magkakatalo sa criteria, dun sa requirements dun sa IELTS. And at the same time is yung paperworks or yung documents you're going to present. Like yung mga, what they call this one, yung transcript of records back home. Then at the same time, it depends nga. I mean, kung ano yung profession mo. Like, I mean, for nurses, I remember, they asked me for my PRC license back home in the Philippines just to prove that I'm a registered nurse back home. So, ang magkakatalo din yan is yung pag pumunta ka na, for example, in the PRC is kung paano nila ipapadala yung document. Because I remember, when you try to submit the documents to the university, gusto nila directly mismo from the agency or the university back home in the Philippines, sila yung magpapadala. So yun lang yung ano roon. Ganun lang yung medyo hassle doon na gusto nila, doon, for example, sa PRC, gusto nila yung documents galing from PRC. So hindi mo siya pwede i-compile na ipapadala mo. Hindi. Ang mangyayari is, for example, yung mga transcript mo from the university, papakusapan mo yung university na isasad nila yun directly doon sa KAPehan mong school.
I see. So yun yung pinaka-challenges doon, yung communication ng
Yes.
school to school. Ayun. Another one, Sir Raymond, is sabi nga natin is alam ng lahat ng Kaps natin is medyo may kamahalan, Sir Raymond, yung Dalhousie. Alam ng mga viewers din na pag nag-international student ka, it's either times 2 or times 3 yung tuition fee mo. It's either mag-community college ka or private school ka, times 2 to 3. Times 2, taba? So, sa Dalhousie, mahal na, tapos times 2 pa. Sir Raymond, can you give us idea yung tuition fee noon or if you have idea ngayon, ano yung tuition fee, on average lang, Sir Raymond, ng tuition fee ng international student sa Dalhousie, at if mag-apply sila mag-master's degree naman, ano yung average tuition fee per year?
Okay, so that's a good question, Joey. So when it comes to difference between the tuition fee for international students compared dun sa regular students here, in Nova Scotia, actually, hindi pa naman nagpapalit yung difference. It's still 40% difference. 40% mas mataas ang tuition fee ng international students, although I have no idea what's the reason for that one. But ganun na talaga. Even ngayon, it's still the same. It's still 40% ang pagkakalam ko. Although, medyo nga siya talaga, medyo costly nga siya, given that you have to consider not only your tuition fee, but also is your board and lodging. Isang malaking problem din yan. Lalo na if you're going to a foreign land, lalo kung wala kang kamag-anak o wala kang kakilala. So, it's definitely a struggle. Like, I remember in my case, when I studied at Dalhousie University, I remember wala akong kakilala. Long-distance relative, but at the same time, I remember during the first semester, I have to stay dun sa merong mga dormitory yung university. Although medyo expensive siya, that's why I have to find another place to stay after yung first semester. So yun, dun ka maghahanap ng mga kakilala mo or mga friends mo na where they could recommend you na makahanap ka ng suitable na apartment na matitirahan. So yun yung mga things na they have to consider aside from the tuition fee itself na 40% na yung difference in terms of yung tuition fee itself. So with regards to price range, also it depends kung anong program ang kukunin mo. Kasi in ibang programs, they offer variety of courses or mga units. Yun doon nagkakatalo kasi din also is yung sa units. Kasi ang tuition fee, nag-aano sila yung price ng tuition fee, nagdedepende siya dun sa units na kukunin mo. Kung marami kang kukunin na units, mas mahal ang babayaran mo, expected yon. But even though mahal yung tuition fee for international students, ang maganda naman kasi is during tax season, somehow nababawi naman siya.
Apo.
So like I remember in my case like after I think after a year, kasi ifa-file mo siya during tax seasons, you have to file, lalo na pag students ka, kung ano yung mga tuition fee mo. May nakukuha ka naman doon. Which is yun naman yung maganda naman dito sa Nova Scotia is that yung pag nag-aral ka, so pag final mo yung, kasi that's part of educational tax. So pag final mo siya, may makukuha ka pa rin. Kahit na mahal yung binayad mo, still may babalik pa rin sa'yo.
Ayun. So yun, Sir Raymond, kasi personally hindi ko yun alam with regards to the tax education. And magandang pag-usapan natin yun, Sir Raymond. So meron din nakukuha na parang tax refund at the end of the year.
Yes.
Wow. Ayan. So yan, Mark. Meron palang tax refund ang So sa lahat ng international student yan, Sir Raymond?
Yes, actually during tax seasons, lalo mga international students, they are encouraged lalo na pag nagfa-file ng tax returns. Lalo kasi karamihan naman ng mga international students after 6 months studying in the university, yung iba naghahanap ng part-time. Like in my case, naghanap din ako ng part-time. So during tax season, pwede mo siyang i-file doon. Then may makukuha ka talaga. Kasi naman yun lahat ng binabayaran mo from the university yung tuition fee mo, inaano yun. That's documented. So, kahit pa paano may makukuha ka naman. You will not be able to get the whole amount of money na binayad mo, but still, you're gonna get something from it.
Ayun. So, napakaganda. So, Sir Raymond, meron, kasi from your, from your story, Sir Raymond, you have an NCLEX, you have HAAD, you have master's degree. Nagkaroon ba ng advantage pag-apply mo sa Dalhousie University?
Oh, definitely yes. When it comes naman sa, applying in university, it's a matter of what are you going to offer to the table. Ako kasi, for me, that's my mindset. Like, even in applying for a job. So, lalo na nag-a-apply ka sa mga international school. So, sa akin kasi, kung maganda ang transcript mo, like yung maganda ang grades mo, then at the same time, maganda din yung work experiences mo back home, yung kung may mga extracurricular na pwede mong isama doon, that would definitely play an advantage. Lalo na in my case, I guess siguro nung college days medyo tutok lang talaga. tutok lang talaga sa studies talaga, then very consistent lang. So somehow it played on my advantage when I applied at Dalhousie University, given that yung mga extracurricular activities, then yung mga accomplishments mo, that really played a big part kasi doon makikita ng mga professors, lalo na nag-interview sa akin na, oh, this person is interested in pursuing higher education. Kasi remember, one of the questions they asked me during the interview is, what are your future plans when it comes to nursing profession? So as much as possible, you have to establish yourself. Doon makikita yun dun sa yung mga credentials mo. By the way, I remember during my interview, I have to provide a resume just to, elaborate like what were your nursing experience, ano ba yung pinagagawa mo, while you're still back home in the Philippines. So yeah, I would say that's really an advantage.
And thank you, Sir Raymond, for sharing your timeline. And to everyone that are watching right now, mga Kap, pinag-usapan natin dito yung student pathway or student journey ni Sir Raymond as simula sa Pilipinas na nag-apply siya sa DIY, nag-apply sa Dalhousie University for master's degree. And ngayon, nandito na si Sir Raymond sa Nova Scotia. Sir Raymond, fast track tayo. Nandito na tayo sa Nova Scotia, natapos mo yung master's degree mo. Nag-work ka agad-agad, Sir Raymond, as an RN or you started as an LPN?
Okay, so that's another good question. Believe it or not, when I was still studying at Dalhousie University, yung part-time ko, hindi pa siya LPN or even an RN. So, kumbaga, naririnig niya no to, I think sa iba nating mga kasama na, you start at the bottom, which is totoo yun. Like, for me, there's no exception in my case. Surely, I may have napakagandang credentials, but like everyone else, you have to start at the bottom. I remember, before working as an LPN, ang una kong job dito is a dishwasher, which hindi ko kinakahiya yun. I remember I have to work as a dishwasher for 6 months, but at the same time, it was a friend of mine. So it's a good thing that ako, one of the things I would encourage for Filipinos here in Nova Scotia, yung mga bago, try to engage in networking sa iba't ibang mga Filipinos so that you would be able to gather more information. Actually, it was a friend of mine who suggested, while waiting for your application as an RN and LPN, you might want to try to apply for personal care worker. So napaisip ako doon yung applying for personal care worker. So I actually applied in one of the nursing home for personal care worker. But at the same time, I guess it was by God's grace. Like I was actually on the second day of my orientation for personal care worker. My application for LPN at that time, they already called me and they asked me, oh, you could get your temporary license as a licensed practical nurse. So they asked me if I'm available to get my license. And I think that office hours was until 4 p.m. and yung pasok ko nun is until 3 p.m. So I remember is after yung work ko noon, yung orientation ko noon, dali-dali punta ako dun sa office ng LPN and I was able to get the license.
Wow.
So di naman when I started working as PCW, kumbaga orientation, actually 2 days orientation na after that one nakapag-work ako ng LPN kagad. So lang talaga, swerte-swertihan lang.
Okay, napakaswerte. So Sir Raymond, paano nangyari na paano ka nag-apply sa LPN? Kasi nowadays, mga Kap, kung nag-apply ka ng LPN at ng RN, you need to undergo dun sa NNAS or NNAS. Sir Raymond, Sir Raymond, paano yung process? Kasi alam ko 10 years ago yun or more or less. Ano
Yes,
yung process mo, Sir Raymond?
Actually, may big difference na when it comes to applying na for RN and LPN. Kasi in my time, kasi ngayon NNAS, di ba yung yung nag-evaluate ng mga credentials. During my time, it was the WES ang nag-check ng mga credentials. And siguro nung time ko medyo lenient sila noon given that I remember ang una ako nag-apply is by RN. I wasn't honestly I was not aware na may LPN. So it's again just a friend of mine who's also as a nurse. Siya yung nagsabi sa akin na, "Oy, you can try to apply as an LPN." So I just followed her advice and at the same time, do your research, check mo lang online yung website ng sa LPN noon at that time. Kasi dati, hindi pa nag-merge yung LPN at saka RN. Pero ngayon, nag-merge na sila. So, I just checked their website. Then, I just asked. Kumbaga, tawag lang ako dun sa office nila, dun sa mga pertinent information that I need to get. So, once I get the pertinent information, at that time, yung time ko nun, since ano pa siya, WES, whatever I submitted through the WES for my RN application, I just need to pay an extra amount to WES, then isasad nila sa CLPNNS, yung mga requirements na sinabit ko. Then, yun, yung once na na-receive na ng LPN yung mga requirements ko, na-process naman nila kaagad. Hindi naman sila ganun ka-higpit at that time. So, they just check your transcript, yung mga ano mo, credentials mo. That's why I think I was able to get like a temporary license on December 2012.
Wow. So parang 2011 ka nag-school, 2000 after a year nagkaroon ka na ng LP.
Yes.
Napakaganda, Sir Raymond. And based from your story, Sir Raymond, is wala ka talaga sinasayang na oras. Yung parang, kasi parang nakikita ko, Sir Raymond, is everything is in the right time. In the right time.
Yes.
Diba? So, sa lahat ng nanonood natin, mga Kaps, is talagang wag yung sasayangin yung pagkakataon. If there's an opportunity, go for it. Wag sasayangin kasi eto na. Alam ko, nakwento natin to Sir Raymond, is nagkaroon ng big shift yung nursing, yung process ng pag-RN. Like for example, sa year ninyo, Sir Raymond, yung hindi pa NCLEX biglang nagkaroon ng NCLEX.
Yes.
So ikaw nasa ano ka parang nasa border ka nung shift Sir Raymond, can you tell us about yung journey mo naman for the RN? So you work as a temporary you have a temporary license as an LPM, then nagpatuloy ka as an LP, and then after alam ko naging RN ka. Paano, Sir Raymond, naging yung application mo for RN?
Okay, so actually ano siya somehow paano ko masabi yung RN and LPN. Yung LPN at that time sa akin kasi I find them kumbaga para silang saving grace to the point na yung nag-aano ka na, kailan ba ako magiging nurse dito sa Canada, sa Nova Scotia? So somehow yung LPN, sinagot nila yung prayers ko noon. So December 2012, I was able to get a temporary license. And by May, I remember nakapag-exam na kaagad ako noon ng LPN. Kasi kung ang ano lang naman nila dun is, once you get your temporary license, they're gonna ask you to go for an examination. Pero meron silang dates ng examination kung kailan ka kukuha. And nung time na yun, kumbaga ano ko is, sige tapusin na natin to. Since binigyan na rin tayo ng temporary license, gawin na natin tong official license. So, I remember nung May nag-exam, then in less than, I think it's only like 3 to 4 weeks, lumabas na kagad yung result.
Wow.
Then, madali lang yung processing when it comes to getting yung license mo na talaga. So, kung sa LPN, hindi ako nahirapan sa LPN when it comes to their processing. Although, hindi ko siya masasabi sa RN, kasi yung sa RN somehow it was a difficult and painstaking journey, I must say, given that believe it or not, even though I was able to get the temporary license nung sa LPN noong 2012, for the RN license it took me almost 4 years. Like I was able to get my license 2016. And harsh reality, because I came here with a student visa. So ang priority ko, even though I'm working as an LPN, my priority is still to study and to finish my master's degree. So yun pa yung isang coffee doon. Kasi nga syempre, you have to consider yung mga gastusin mo, then at the same time, yung studies mo. And in my case, when I did my master's program at Dalhousie University, I was actually a full-time student. So I have, kumbaga binigyan ako ng taning na, you have 2 years to finish your program. So doon yun din yung added pressure doon. Although I was able to finish naman, but like in my case, I think I have to extend 1 semester just to finish the health policy paper. Pero like going back again to the RN requirements, medyo madugo, although hanggang ngayon, I think maano pa rin sila, very critical sila when it comes to the requirements for RN, which somehow I cannot blame them kasi nga syempre, this is their country that at the same time, they're very strict with their rules. So we have to follow it as an international nurses or even mga foreign workers. We have to comply whatever rules a specific country, kung ano yung in-order nila. So sa atin yun ang ano lang naman. So I guess for me, yung pagkuha ng RN license, medyo natagalan siya, given that, like what you have said earlier, the exam previously was pen and paper. But there was a transition, yung kanilang exam noon to NCLEX. Because I remember when I was applying for RN noong 2012, naririnig na namin yan na magkakaroon ng transition. They're going to adapt the pattern. Gagayahin nila yun sa US, wherein magtitake sila ng NCLEX. Anyway, isa lang naman ang testing center na yung Pearson VUE. So, I think nag-take effect yung pag-change nung exam. I think it was 2014. But at the same time, during my application noong 2012, medyo tenga na kami. Kumbaga yung application namin noon, natenga siya. Kasi nga, wala pang desisyon na, okay na ba mag-a-adapt yung Nova Scotia when it comes to from pen and paper to NCLEX. So, since hindi sila makalabas ng desisyon noon, unfortunately, yung application ko noon, tenga. I remember, I have to take the IELTS, and even up to now, they have their passing scores in the IELTS. Kumbaga meron silang rubric kung ano yung mga passing score nila noon. Like, it was a challenge, especially you're going to pass kung ano yung binigay nilang mga scores. So, I think sabi ko nga sa'yo, Joey, I remember, I have to take 3 times for the IELTS para lang makuha yung exact score na gusto nila.
Yeah.
So, yun yung struggle ko. But at the same time, yun pa yung concern ko noon when nag-aantay ako ng application ko for RN, is yung IELTS ko, kumbaga, tumatakbo yung oras. So, ang validity ng IELTS mo is 2 years. So, yun yung pa yung isa sa mga concerns ko noon na by the time umuusad na yung application ko, napapasula yung IELTS ko.
Correct.
So, I think I remember at that time na yung makukuha ko na yung license ko, biglang may nag-email pa sa akin na parang, "Ops, yung IELTS mo nag-expired na. Kailangan mo ulit mag-retake." So, that was another issue na naman. Although, I guess for me, doon ko nagamit yung experiences ko working as an LPN. Because habang nag-aantay ka ng application mo sa RN, so you gain experience working as an LPN. Then at the same time, when you work as an LPN, you tend to engage to different clients, and at the same time, so doon nagsasalita ka ng English, and at the same time, your communication, the mode of instruction, your work, they're in English. So basically, kahit paano na-gain mo yung yung experience mo in communicating in English. So I remember when I was explaining to the College of Nursing sa RN yung because they were asking me to rewrite the IELTS kasi nga pasuna. I asked them na, do I really need to rewrite the IELTS given that, first of all, ang ano ko dun is, ang tagal ko na nag-work as LPN. So I guess that's a valid reason. Then at the same time, yung sa masters din, actually, I have to emphasize that one kasi hindi naman sa yung binubuhat mo yung bangko mo, but I guess I was really frustrated at that time that I don't want to repeat taking the IELTS again. Kasi nga ano siya may sugal din siya na hindi naman yung makukuha mo siya kagad in an instance. Swertihan din kung makukuha mo yung IELTS. But for me, talagang, oo, it was a struggle. So, yun yung isa sa mga argument ko din noon, yung when they were asking me to rewrite the IELTS na, ang sabi ko noon is, I've been working as an LPN for ilang years na. Then at the same time, yung sa master's program sa Dalhousie, na graduate ako 2014. I think that's already a validation na I can communicate, speak in English, and even write a decent health policy paper. So hindi ako makakapag-defend dun sa mga professors ko kung hindi ako marunong magsalita.
Hindi ka marunong mag-ako. So ito Sir Raymond, china-challenge mo yung Board of Nursing, tama ba?
Not necessarily challenging them, but just letting them know na, is this really a requisite for me to take again the IELTS? Kasi ang ano ko dun is, I already passed that one. So why would I take it another time? Kumbaga why would I take it again na kumbaga napasa mo na siya. So sa akin yun lang yung ano ko dun, yung parang I just felt that there's a redundancy when it comes to the requirements na parang feeling ko is yung hindi siya yung necessary, parang hindi gauge ang IELTS for me to work as a competent nurse.
Tama.
And for the fact na napasa ko na siya, why do I need to repeat that one? Parang inisip ko, bababa ang English level, English skills ko when it comes to speaking, writing, para hindi ko take yung, para kumbaga hindi ko siya i-write ulit yung IELTS. Kasi ano din, I mean, honestly, getting yung passing score, medyo mahirap din siya, hindi naman ganun kadali. I mean, lahat, karamihan ng ibang mga nurses, yun din yung mga struggles nila. I mean, passing the English
That's
test.
the real talk, Sir Raymond, with regards to nursing experience. Yun ang real talk ng yung English talaga.
Yes.
Nag-expire,
So,
hindi makuha yung...
Oo. Actually, I remember I was talking to one of the heads in the CRNS. I'm not sure. I think she's still there, Miss Cathy Rose. She was still working there. I was actually talking to her. I was not argumentative, but I was pleading my case. Like, for me, I was just letting her know that I already submitted the requirement that you're asking me, but at the same time, you're asking me to take the IELTS. For my part, I already did my part. Although, hindi ko na sinabi na parang, yung time nag-transition kayo from the pen and paper to the NCLEX, hindi ko inano yun. Kumbaga, hindi ko tinik again sa inyo yun. Pero, naubos yung oras ko doon. Kumbaga, yung IELTS na, yung expiry ko, kumbaga na-consume doon. So, kung paano is, also they have to consider that one. Pero sa akin, inano ko lang ang, kumbaga what I plead for is, nag-work na ako sa NLPN, then at the same time, natapos ko yung master's dun sa Dalhousie, which for me, dapat may bearing naman siya kahit paano.
So ano nangyari, Sir Raymond? At the end, nabigyan ka ba ng chance?
Oh, yes. Actually, grateful ako kay Miss Cathy Rose from the CRNS kasi when I was actually pleading my case, she was the one who advised me to write a letter and at the same time, you're going to plead your case with regards your IELTS nag-expired na siya and you just plead your reasons. Like yun, yung sinasabi sa, kasi kung ano yung sinabi ko, yun yung sinabi sa akin, make sure to plead your reason na yun nga, yung sa, kumbaga, you've been living here for several years na, you've been working as an LPN, ng ilang years then sa akin kasi I think it was like more than 3 years na, then at the same time ngayon sa masters, kumbaga natapos mo, graduate ka na, Then, sabit na ako ng letter, then after 3 to 4 weeks, I receive a letter na parang, sige, wini-waive na namin yung English mo.
Wow. Ito yung isang mga patunay mga Kap that yung mga organization, association, or yung Board of Nursing dito ay nakikinig
yes.
sa mga
di
nurses.
ano naman, kumbaga, ano naman sila, reasonable naman sila when it comes to, I mean, when you try to plead your case. Because I know, yung ibang provinces, I think they're also waiving English test to some foreign applicants. Yes. So although I'm not sure like what are the rules, but I think they're more lenient right now. Lalo na kung I mean, it depends kung anong university ka nag-aral, then at the same time yung experiences mo, yung knowledge mo. I know medyo lenient sila ngayon dyan.
And thank you very much, Sir Raymond. And of course, mga Kap, if you have questions, feel free to ask questions sa ating comment section sa Facebook and YouTube. And of course, I do watch pa sa AIPP Community, Cup Unity, and Pinoy Canada Immigration Forum. To everyone, a big shout out po sa lahat. Anyway, Sir Raymond, gusto kong itanong din, Sir Raymond, that time that you're working as an LPN and going to RN, ano na yung status mo, Sir Raymond? Nakapag-apply ka na ba ng permanent resident that time? Or do you have a work permit that time? Na-convert mo na ba yung student mo into work permit or diretso ka ng permanent resident?
Okay, that's another good question, Joey, to bring up. Okay, so since student visa ako, so one of the requirements is basically you have to finish your study. Kasi hindi lalakad ang papers mo or kung ang plano mo ay maging permanent resident, hindi lalakad ang document mo kung hindi mo tatapusin ang studies mo. So for me, that's my number one priority. I have to make sure na tapos yung studies ko. So I remember I graduated at Dalhousie University October 2014. So once na nakagraduate na ako, doon pa lang magsisimulang maglakad yung papers ko. So yung ibang mga Pilipinong, kumbaga nauna pa ako sa ibang mga Pilipino, mas nauna yung mga application na. Kasi I mean, iba't iba tayong mga stream kung paano tayo nag-apply. So in my case, after kung matapos yung studies ko, they're gonna give you 2 to 3 years postgraduate work permit. So for that 2 to 3 years postgraduate work permit, that would give you enough time makahanap ng full-time job. Then at the same time, kumbaga para masustain mo yung sarili mo. And once you get like, I think more than 1 year na nasa full-time job ka, as long as you keep your job, then that's the time you're going to apply for the permanent residency. Na like for me, naghintay lang ako ng 1 year, then nag-apply na ako ng permanent residency. But for me, I have to make sure na tago ko yung full time. Kasi just in case, habang lumalaki yung application mo, pag may tinanong sila, pwede mong hinga ng employment letter yung yung bossing mo. So yun lang yung doon. So after yung studies, I was given postgraduate work permit 2 to 3 years. Then habang nagwo-work ka, hindi mo naman kasi kailangan tapusin yung 3 years na yan eh. So after 1 year, apply na ako ng permanent residency. So ganun yung ginawa ko noon. So I was able to get my permanent residency 2017.
2017. Ayan.
I think it was January.
And I think, Sir Raymond, doon tayo nag-meet eh. Kasi 2016
Yes.
And December tayo nag-meet eh. December. So yun. So napaka-swerte ko kasi ito si Sir Raymond yung mga tawag nito, alam ko na nandiyan si Sir Raymond dito sa Halifax. Although yung schedule na hindi nagmamatch kasi because of our schedule, syempre at that time nag-work si Raymond, nag-work din ako. But anyway, at least I have someone na, taga Bicol to. Yun. Katrabaho ko to sa hospital sa Bicol. Ayan. So speaking, Sir Raymond, of katrabaho as an RN, gusto ko, Sir Raymond, kasi ang natin dito is yung Real Talk Buhay Nurse. So nakwento na natin, Sir Raymond, yung journey mo from Philippines to Canada, nag-aral ka as master's degree, nakwento din natin yung LPN journey mo to RN. Ngayon, Sir Raymond, gusto ko naman malaman yung comparison ng RN sa Pilipinas at RN dito sa Canada. Sabi nga natin, #Real Talk Buhay Nurse. Kasi maraming mga kap natin nanonood ngayon that they are dreaming to immigrate here, to work, and to be an RN. So, Sir Raymond, can you give us a visual? Ano yung comparison ng RN sa Pilipinas at RN dito sa Canada? Mahirap ba? Madali?
Okay, magaganda mga questions mo, Joey. Okay, so let's start first RN. So ano tayo muna, skills-wise, actually that's one of the greatest advantage of Filipino nurses, particularly yung mga nag-aral back home in the Philippines, and also yung those nurses who have the great opportunity na nakapag-work din sa Pilipinas. Given that yung experiences nila, definitely madadala nila yun here in Canada. The only thing is we just need to adapt to the different changes and policies when it comes to performing procedures or skills. Kasi one of the things that I noticed for Canadian nursing is they're very particular with the policy or rules when it comes to performing skills. Medyo mahigpit sila doon, which is good. I mean, if you ask me, I would rather have a standard when it comes to performing skills. Kasi nga ang natin rito is yung safety ng patient. Then at the same time, yung safety rin mismo ng mga clientele natin. So, yun lang yung difference when it coming to Canada is you have to adjust with the skills. Pero mas mabuti na yung meron kang skills back home in the Philippines para at least pagdating mo dito, aware ka. The only thing you need to change is yung how you're going to perform the skills, which is sa akin kasi mga Filipinos, when it comes to performing nursing skills, they can adapt easily. Kumbaga yun ang isa sa mga good traits natin mga Filipinos is ang bilis natin maka-adapt when it comes to different changes. Pero ang maganda kasi sa atin, meron na tayong background, may knowledge na tayo kung paano natin gagawin yung procedure. It's just that we have to follow kung ano yung protocol nila. So, yun lang yung one of the things na maano ko dun sa skills for Filipinos, given that there's a lot of Filipino nurses working in the hospital and majority very competent when it comes to performing yung mga nursing skills. Kasi given na talaga, kahit lang hindi lang naman sa nurses, when it comes to skills, kilala mga Pilipino, masisipag talaga. Lalo na pa yung mga nurses na mga Pilipino. Kumbaga medyo nakikilala when it comes to patient care din kasi nga very dedicated, that's very compassionate when it comes to performing care. What more pa dun sa skills? So, sa akin, advantage natin yan as Filipinos. Kumbaga, isa sa magandang natin is, I mean, as a Filipino nurse, yung skills natin, yung natutunan natin back home in the Philippines, graduating in universities or schools in the Philippines, maganda yung nating knowledge, nakuha natin, na-grasp nating knowledge.
Totoo.
And lalo na pag nag-work ka pa sa hospital. Like, I mean, hindi ko naman masasabi na yung mga kilala mga hospital, but other mga provincial hospital, sa akin kasi is, as long as you perform the skill, you have the knowledge, that's good. Then at the same time, it's a matter of being able to adapt. Yun yung isa sa mga ano lang naman for Filipino nurses when it comes to skills.
Ayan.
Knowledge-wise,
Mhm.
I mean, maganda naman yung knowledge sa Philippines when it comes to education. Maganda. But I guess for me, one of my realizations when I did the master's at Dalhousie, I mean, when it comes to Canadian nursing, they take it very seriously. So, I would be able to compare that one when I took my master's in Ateneo de Naga University for nursing and at Dalhousie. I mean, pareha silang challenging. But to be honest, Joey, mas na-challenge ako when I did my master's here at Dalhousie University. Kumbaga talagang dinugo ako. Nosebleed. Yun yung term ko doon. Lalo na every courses you have to take it seriously. Kasi I guess they have their own cultures when it comes to these things, especially when you're studying abroad. So sa akin, one thing that I realize, you have to have a tough skin. So especially when you're studying in a university. Kasi sa atin kasi ang kultura natin mga Pilipino, especially during mga student and teacher relationship na pag medyo pangit yung performance ng estudyante sa Pilipinas, pasensyosa pa ang mga professors natin.
Yeah.
Although may mga iba mahigpit, pero they tend to be nice. Hindi sila ganun ka-critical. Although at Dalhousie kasi, yung education, yung experience ko dito when studying abroad is very critical sila when it comes dun sa education. Especially, I remember sa Masters in Nursing, there's no such thing as quizzes. It's always a research paper.
Oh my God.
So, when it comes to doing your research paper, very critical sila when it comes to plagiarism. Alam nila kung nag-plagiarize ka ng paper. Then at the same time, very critical din ng mga professors when it comes to reading your research paper. Because I remember during my first semester, sabi ko sa'yo, hindi naman lahat kumbaga I mean, sa akin, everything na, yung alam mo yung pagpasok mo, lahat, kumbaga, good vibes lahat. Sa akin kasi, I remember during my first semester, it was a struggle. Given that I remember when I submitted one of my assignments like a research paper, yung professor ko noon, diretsahan sasabihin sa'yo, this is a crappy paper.
Diretso.
Diretso. Kumbaga, never pa ako nasabihan when I was still studying back home in the Philippines. Never pa ako nasabihan ng professor ko na, kumbaga, pangit ang paper mo, this is a crappy paper. Ako, I mean, when I was studying at Dalhousie, yung first semester ko, I could still remember that one. One of the professors mentioned to me in one of my subjects na yung nagpasa ako ng paper na, this is a crappy paper. As in talagang, tapos kasi gigradean pa, may critic pa yan, susulatan pa. Sabi ko sa'yo, yung paper ko madugo, talagang grabe ang comment noon. Tapos
ito yung sinasabag talagang real talk. So real talk for being
talagang brutally honest. Ang
na,
naman ng mga professors, I mean, although siguro at first medyo syempre masasaktan ka, but you have to realize they're just doing their job. I mean, as professors, they're trying to mold you to be a better individual. I mean, so that you'll be able to gain your knowledge, but at the same time, nothing comes easy when it comes to doing your assignments, your research. So sa kanila, when it comes to education, they take it seriously. Sabi ko sa iyo, kung effort-wise, i-compare ko yung studies ko back home in the Philippines. Kasi added pressure din the fact na my dream is to stay here and get, I mean, the citizenship. So, ang ano ko din is, I really have to pass it. So, yun yung mindset ko noon na when I studied at Dalhousie, I have to make sure I have to graduate. Hindi pwedeng hindi ako graduate. Kasi, ang ano ko din is, once hindi ka makagraduate, you just blew your, I mean, kumbaga, yung hopes mo, just blew it goodbye na. Kasi nga, ano din is, there's no next step, not unless makakuha ka ng employer. Although, ano ko din is, you're not gonna waste the money na binayaran mo for your tuition fee, na hindi ka makakakuha ng degree. So, yun yung one of the main difference when it comes to education. I have to give it for, I mean, the Canadian nursing. Talagang, they really take it seriously when it comes to studies. Talagang very serious sila, lalo sa research paper, very strict.
Ayun. So lahat ng mga nanonood ngayon, if you are planning to study here and be an international student dito po sa Halifax and nagpaplano kang mag-aral dito sa Dalhousie as a master's degree, sabi ni Sir Raymond, seryoso to. Seryoso to. And
Oh
you need to
yes.
top
Actually,
speed.
Joey, ano to,
Top speed.
one thing I can add, like if you're pursuing like a higher education, you really have to want it. Ako kasi yun yung ano ko dun eh. Yung isa sa mga mindset ko noon na sacrifices must be made na yung, for example, in my case, yung kung gigimik ka, medyo babawas-bawasan mo yung gimmick mo noon. Syempre, mag-work ka pa eh. Oh. So, babalanse ka. Pero ang sa akin kasi, at the end of the day, gaano mo ka gusto makuha tong degree ito? Talagang you really have to, I mean, not only work for it, but you really have to want it. Kumbaga talagang, kung talagang gugustuhin mo talaga.
Yes. Ayan, thank you Sir Raymond, and sa lahat ng mga nanonood ngayon sa ating YouTube and Facebook, feel free to ask question. Sir Raymond, we have one questions, and if you are comfortable to answer that one,
Sure.
sabi niya Sir Raymond is question for the living expenses. I think natakal natin to ng hapyawan with regards to the living expenses. Question from Russell. Question lang po Sir Raymond, living expenses daw po.
Okay, so living expenses. Kasi if you're planning to, I mean, study abroad, particularly here in Nova Scotia, kung may matutuluyan kang family or friends, mas makakatipid ka, especially when it comes to rent. Kasi or kung may friends ka kahit papaano maghahati kayo dun sa rent eh. Malaking bagay na 'yon kasi normally when it comes to renting an apartment or a place, it depends kung nasa ng location mo. Pag nasa downtown ka, syempre mas mahal. Pero pag medyo nasa outskirts ka ng downtown, yung medyo nasa labas ka ng downtown, medyo mura siya. Pero yung commute mo, magko-commute ka nga lang by bus or kung medyo pinagpala tayo, may kotse, yon. So, mas medyo may convenient din yon. So, apartment-wise, kumbaga, depende kasi kung anong makukuha mong apartment. Pero normally kasi ang price range ng mga apartment kasi dito, depende kung may 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, it could go as around to like 900 to 1,600 Canadian dollars. But it depends on the location. And also kung ano yung amenities and features ng apartment. Pero if you have a family or a friend na pwede kang makituloy, then at the same time, you're going to share yung cost ng living sa apartment, much better, mas makakatipid. Food-wise naman, hindi naman ganun kamahal ang food. I mean, it depends naman sa'yo kasi ang sa akin kasi is, you have to be practical. Like, in my case, remember, when I was still studying at Dalhousie University, normally may mga sinesend na flyers yan, yung mga grocery, kung kailan yung mga sale. So, you have, aabangan mo yung kung saan yung sale, tapos doon ka bibili.
Saka may,
para mas
may
makatipid
special
ka.
discount. May special discount as a student. Maano naman dito, I mean, when it comes to sale, galante naman ng Nova Scotia when it comes to mga grocery, mga nagsisale sila. Talagang makakatipid ka. Kailangan, sabi ko nga one of the traits natin mga Pilipino, madiskarte tayo. So, sa akin, didiskarte ako. When it comes to foods, syempre, bago ka bumili ng food, tumingin ka lang muna ng mga flyers kung alin ang mura, kung alin ang mga sale. Then, doon ka bibili. O para hindi ka, kumbaga, hindi ka lalo mapagastos. Then at the same time, so that's for food, yung boarding, yung apartment nga. Then, transportation, normally, for starters, yung mga nagsisimula, actually, even up to now, Joey, I mean, I'm still taking the bus. I'm still taking the bus. So, when it comes to, I mean, transportation, I mean, may bus naman tayo, accessible naman siya. You could buy, what we call this one, meron sila mga, yung kada sakay mo may inaano kang ticket. I think it's already like $2.75 to $3. Pero meron din naman yung parang 1 month pass, which sa akin yun ang kinukuha ko na. I think it's around $80. So, yun. I mean, kahit paano mas medyo makakatipid ka doon. I think 80 or 82 something, I'm not sure. So, and I think yung bus pass, Sir Raymond, pwede pa sa tax refund, di ba?
Yes. Then, just to add, if you're studying in the university and you're a full-time student, libre ang ano mo, bus mo.
Wow.
So usually, I remember when I was a full-time student at Dalhousie University, yung sa school ID ko, may nilagay lang yung, kasi during enrollment, so pupunta ka sa registrar's office, maganon. So I remember, may pinuntahan lang akong isang building doon sa Dalhousie, kasi bayad kumbaga nagbabayad ka din ng yung transportation mo, pero mura yung singil nila nung university. I think nasa $45 lang yata yun So, bibigyan ka nila ng sticker, ilalagay sa ID, yun yung parang transit pass mo.
Oo, ipapakita mo, para kang NBI.
Yeah, so, Sa akin, I remember when I was a student, I take advantage of that one. Na,
That's right.
kasi ano yun ang laking tulong din nun yung bus pass mo dun for university students. Ang laking tipid nun na 80 a month ang matitipid mo doon. Lalo na, I mean, when you're enrolling in university, yun ang ginagawa ng mga students. Kaya nga pag pumapasok sila ng bus, they just present their ID na may sticker doon na,
Correct.
actually yung sticker nakalagay lang naman kasi dun yung sticker na, estudyante ka for this semester. So, kumbaga bayad ka dun sa sakay mo. So,
Yun.
malaking bagay yun.
Ayan. Mark, alam ko si Mark is also a student. Mark, can you add at least one tips on the living expenses?
Ako, parang mahirap yan, Kap Joey. Pero tawag dito, akin lang naman is, tama yung sabi ni Sir Raymond na yun nga, yung mga flyers, no, talagang abangan mo talaga yan. Kasi yun yung mga discount mas malaki matitipid mo doon. Ano pa ba? Yung bus pass, tama. Sinong sa akin, meron akong yung U-Pass ang tawag nila. So, we pay, ano ko binayaran namin to sa school, but itong parang, I think, parang $80 for the whole SEM na.
Wow.
So, tipid talaga. Until now, ginagamit ko pa rin kasi, di ba, hanggang ano pa yung bus pass, hanggang in-honor pa nila yung mga March tickets.
Wow.
So, ito ginagamit ko, kahit graduate na ako, ginagamit ko pa rin. Pero until the end of August lang to. Pero ano ba yung mga tips natin? Yun lang, mga pag may sale, yun, doon ka lang bibili, mga ganyan.
Yan.
So, yun lang.
Thank you, Mark. Pero sa akin naman, Sir Raymond, Mark, and to everyone is, nasa tao kasi talaga yung living expenses nasa tao eh. So, ito yung pinakamahirap na sagutin kasi sabihin namin, ito yung expenses, ito yung dapat gawin. Pero sa tao pa rin eh. Kasi every individual meron silang way of, especially paggastos. Meron ding magastos, meron din masipag magtrabaho. So nag-i-equal lang yung yung tawag nito, yung expenses at income. Meron naman wala mataas yung income at hindi gumagastos. So kaya sobra yung naiipon. So I think it depends on individual with regards to the living expenses. Pero dito po, sabi ko nga, once masipag ka dito, kayang-kaya mo yung mga expenses dito sa Halifax.
Totoo yun.
So, another question, Sir Raymond. Having a part-time, does it can sustain the living expenses? If not, what is the percentage that we need to add in?
Okay, so that's another good question. Kasi normally for yung mga incoming students, kasi they're mandated na talagang for the first 6 months, they have to study in the university. Hindi sila pwedeng mag-work. Then after 6 months, that's the time they're eligible to apply for a student work permit. Pero once they applied for student work permit, alam ko may mga conditions siya na parang you're only required to work certain hours. So, I mean, yung kikitain mo as student part-time work, may naman, kumbaga kahit papaano, malaking tulong na rin siya when it comes yung pay, yung rent mo, lalo na kung mas malaki kasing factor din yung lalo kung may kahati ka dun sa apartment. Ang laking tulong na nun, kumbaga yung patak-patak kayong magko-contribute. Malaking na yun, malaking tulong na yun. Pero hindi nga lang ganun kalaki yung, what to call this one, yung salary, kasi nga syempre part-time siya. Pero when it comes to paying yung apartment mo or yung rent mo, feasible siya, kaya siya. Or even yung daily needs mo like yung food, kayang-kaya siya.
And Sir Raymond, another question. Masteral, musta po ang grading sa Dalhousie? Kasi na-discuss natin, madugo, nosebleed talaga. Ito sinatanong niya is, Masteral, musta man po ang grading sa Dalhousie? Mahigpit po ba sila? Bumabagsak po ba sa mga subjects?
Well, kung hindi mo papasukan yung subject mo, definitely you're gonna fail. Then at the same time, yung papers na sinasabit mo, pag hindi talaga siya yung within the PAR standards nung professor mo, definitely babagsak ka. Kasi ang kasi, Joey, is hindi lang yung basta mag-submit ka ng paper. Like, I cannot say to the rest of all the programs. Siguro masasabi ko lang yung sa nursing, given that doon naman yung experience ko. So, like in my case, since wala kami masters in nursing, definitely no quizzes yan. Ang assignment mo is research paper. So, one good advice I can give is, when you have your assignment, usually sa mga university, they always give a rubric or like a pattern, no? Parang ito yung criteria for when it comes to grading your assignment. So you have to make sure to follow the criteria or the rubric when it comes to grading. So that yung every point na hinihingi ng professor, dapat makita niya dun sa paper mo. Dahil kung wala siyang nakita dun sa paper mo na parang hinihingi niya, well, obviously, hindi ka bibigyan ng score noon. So, ang ano kasi sa Pilipinas kasi, uso sa atin kasi yung transmutation score. Hindi, kumbaga may raw score, then may transmutation score. So, sa Dalhousie kasi, it's more of raw score. So, for example, ang research paper mo is 25%. So, ang ano dun is, kung anong makuha mo dun sa rubric, na 25, yung sa rubric na yon, yun lang ibibigay sa'yo ng professor mo. Kasi like I remember in one of my class noon, there's like I have a class women and aging course. I could remember that one. It was a final paper which is 40%. So ako kasi one of my main strategies when it comes to submitting your assignment, even the final paper, you have to follow the rubric what was given by the professor. And kung may hindi ka maintindihan, you could ask the professor kung ano ang gusto niya makita dun sa paper. Kasi very ano naman, even though strict ang mga professors, very ano sila, friendly when it comes to students. If they have any questions, concern, you just need to book an appointment, then they're going to entertain your concerns. So usually for me, that's the time that I ask them, like, what do you want to see on the paper? Ako kasi ganun ako tinatanong ko yung professors ahead of time na ano ba ang gusto mong makita sa paper? Anong gusto mong presentation nito? Yung parang kasi like, pag may mga inaano sila dun sa rubric na na nalilito ka, like for example yung instruction, you just ask them like for this part, ano bang gusto mong makita dito? Ganun. So, they're very open about it. So, yun nga. Once you follow the rubric.
Huwag matakot magtanong.
Yes. Kumbaga, feel free to ask your professors.
Yeah.
Mukhang, astang berdugo lang, pero sabi ko mabait yung mga kausap.
Stricto
Kumbaga,
sila in terms of
accommodating.
Stricto sa gradings, pero approachable naman sila sa mga students.
Ay, oo. Very helpful sila when it comes to giving insights and yung mga resources.
Wow.
Sabi ko nga sa'yo, going back again on my story dun sa isang course na kinuha ko noon. So, it was a final paper. So, for me, yun lang. I just ask ko ano yung mga, tawag dito yung kinakailangang mga requirements dun sa paper na yun. So, true enough, when we submitted the paper, so, after nun, pinabalik kami. Kasi I remember, nung time na yun, kasi kukunin mo yung paper mo, depende din sa professor yun. Normally, ibabalik sa yung final paper mo. Kukunin mo, whether kukunin mo siya sa opisina ng professor or i-distribute siya dun sa mismong, mismo yung sa office ng secretary. I think I remember at that time, yung sa professor kong yun, pinapunta kami dun sa office niya nun. So, kumbaga, one at a time, 10 minutes, kada student. So, and then i-discuss yung scores mo. And I think I remember yung course na kinuha ko yung sa Women in Aging course, it was a mixed class. May postgraduate, may mga undergrads. Kasi depende nga dun sa, yung sa kinuha ko kasi is meron ako may mga required subjects, meron din ako mga elective subjects. So anyway, so what happened is yung na-meet ko yung professor, somehow, kumbaga maganda naman yung binigay sa akin feedback ng professor. To the point na, kumbaga yung sa paper, maganda naman yung naging resulta ko dun sa paper. Like yung, I think I remember, out of 40, I was able to get 36.
Wow.
So, pero ang inano ko lang dun is, I just follow the rubrics. Kumbaga kung ano yung binigay nilang just follow it. Tapos kung ano yung hinihingi nila, yun ang nakalagay sa papel mo. It's a matter of paano mo siya i-justify, paano mo i-present yung arguments mo. Nasa sa'yo na yun. Kumbaga, when it comes to writing your research paper, kanya-kanya ng style yan. Pero ang pinakapunto, kung ano yung hinihingi ng professor mo, yun ang ibibigay mo sa kanya. Kasi I remember yung isa kong kaklase, after ko noon, after nung appointment ko siya, may susunod. Somehow, medyo nagulat ako dun sa binigay sa kanya. I think that student was able to get like 9 out of 40. So talagang bagsak.
Wow.
Then at the same time, I'm not sure if she passed the course, given that ang laki na nga habulin niya. I mean, that's a final paper.
So if sa lahat ng mga this is a very good tip sa lahat. Na seryosohin talaga, and at the same time give the opportunity.
Sa akin when it comes to at first for professors they may be intimidating, pero sa akin kasi do your work, study hard.
That's right.
submit the requirements, then at the same time, if may mga questions ka, ask your professors. Napakabait nila when it comes to asking for clarification, even for extension, lalo kung may mga concerns, kung hindi mo masasabit yung paper, you can ask for an extension. Madali silang kausapin yung maano ko sa mga professors dito. Very considerate. Pero yun nga lang, when it comes to grading, very critical. You just have to follow the rules. Yun lang naman yung bottom line.
Ang ano ko is, Sir Raymond, huwag sasayangin talaga yung opportunity na pwede ka mag-book ng consultation for professors.
Actually, fun thing about that one, Joey, when it comes to final paper, I remember when I was still studying at Dalhousie, kasi normally, during yung first meeting nyo sa class, binibigay niya na yung may syllabus na binibigay yan. So, kahit paano, during yung mga every week na mga discussions ninyo, mga classes ninyo, kahit paano nakakagather ka na ng mga ideas. Hindi ako naghihintay ng 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the deadline, doon ka pa lang gagawa ng final paper mo. No. Sa akin kasi, for siguro mga 1 month or 2 months, nagagather ka na ng mga resources mo, mga literatures mo. I mean, by the way, mga literatures, that's available in the library. I mean, for all the students in the university, may access sa mga various literatures, which is, I guess for me, yun ang naiinggit ako dito. When I was studying back home in the Philippines, yung sa masters, ang hirap mag-access ng mga literatures, yung online literatures, very hard mag-access kasi nga syempre may bayad yan eh. So that's one of the best things na yung for me yung nag-aral sa Dalhousie. And somehow, para dun sa iba din mga nag-aral din, yun yung mga, for me, one of the greatest opportunity dapat never nilang i-miss talaga is when it comes when they're doing their research is grab the opportunity to get the best literatures. Kumbaga, accessible siya online. Kumbaga, you just need to click that one. Kasi kumbaga, ang mga university, may access sila doon.
Kasama na sa mga resources na available.
Kasama na siya sa tuition fee.
Wow.
Kasi like for example, like, gayong hindi ako nag-aaral, may inahanap akong articles. Pag hinanap ko siya online, magbabayad ako.
Ayun.
Pero pag estudyante ka, access mo siya libre.
Ayun.
Yun ang naiinggit ako kasi ang hirap maka-access ng mga journals, ng mga yung mga literatures na yung libre. Sa akin yun yung So, yun nga, going back again doon. So, yun nga lang, when it comes to doing final paper talaga, mamumuhunan ka talaga sa time and effort. Totoo talaga yung kasabihan talaga na kung gaano yung effort na linagay mo dun sa isang paper or dun sa isang product, yun din yung magiging consequences or yun din magiging result nung nung effort mo. Kumbaga, kung ano yung parang binigay mong attention dun sa isang bagay, yun din may magiging kalabasan.
Ayun. Sir Raymond, based from your story na approachable yung mga professors and terrors in terms of grading pero approachable naman sila. Sir Raymond, i-relate ko lang yung latest news natin dito sa Halifax na yung regarding sa discriminations or racist doon sa bus. Nabalitaan niyo yun?
Yes, I think nabasa ko lang in a few days ago.
Gusto ko lang i-relate doon, sir. And if you aren't able to read that one, mga Kap, I'll just post the link sa page natin, yung news dito. Latest na yung kahapon yata or the other day. Tama ba? 2 days ago. So anyway, nakakalungkot yon kasi first time ko yung marinig dito sa Halifax and Filipina pa yung parang na-victim. In connection to that, Sir Raymond, na-experience mo ba sa 3 or 4 years mo sa Dalhousie, na-experience mo ba yung ng discrimination sa loob ng university or habang nag-aaral ka?
Actually, never ko pa naman na-experience yung discrimination in the university. Hindi naman siya yung talagang blatantly talaga na yung talagang parang kumbaga more parang in your face na discrimination. I guess siguro nagkakahiyaan. Siguro yun yung term na sasabihin ko yung parang nahiyang kumbaga sa akin kasi as a foreign student, nahihiya kang i-approach ng ibang mga estudyante. Pero napaka-rare ng occasions na yon. Pero very friendly ang mga university lalo sa Dalhousie. Very sila kumbaga one of the main features ng Dalhousie University is very open sila when it comes to diversity. Lalo sa mga cultural very sila talaga. Open sila doon. Tapos very friendly din sila, very helpful sila. So far never pa naman ako naka-experience ng discrimination, although it's unfortunate nga na nangyari dun sa kababayan natin sa bus.
Nakakabigla Sir Raymond kasi sabi ko nga personally I never experienced yung discrimination or racist dito. In my personal opinion, personal experience, I think same with you, Sir Raymond. Tapos biglang nabasa ko tong news, shinare ni actually ni special case sa akin. Said, oh, nakakalungkot naman. And yung victim is a Filipina. And I
Yes.
think hindi pa sang taon yung Pilipina, so nagbas siya.
Oh,
So
syempre,
anyway,
kahit paano, I mean, nobody would like to go dun sa trauma na nangyari dun sa kababayan natin, especially bagong ano nga siya dito sa Nova Scotia. Then at the same time, there could be definitely emotional and mental trauma for that one. But I just find it, kumbaga, it's one of the random cases nga. Although, syempre, I mean, right now, kasi nga nasa COVID ano tayo ngayon, so hindi lahat ng tao, I mean, unfortunately, mapa-Pilipino man, mapaputi, hindi naman lahat updated or informed knowledge-wise when it comes dun sa yung parang ano nga bang sanhi ng COVID? Kasi karamihan ang inanay galing sa China, ganyan. So, I mean, still, ang ano lang kasi dun is, hindi rin kasi natin alam yung story whether this person is drunk or what. But sa akin kasi, I mean, I guess this is like a random case. Although it's unfortunate nga na ganun ngayon nangyari. Although, it's quite rare. I mean, especially here in Nova Scotia. Because I mean, compared to other provinces, Nova Scotia, I would say, is one of the most friendliest provinces.
100% totoo yun.
Very helpful.
Totoo. So, tanong ko din si Mark. Mark, kasi si Mark nag-aral to sa NSCC. Mark, based from your experience at NSCC, nakaramdam ka ba ng konti or wala or meron na discrimination?
Hindi mo kasi masabi kung discrimination siya or hindi. Pero sa case ko kasi sometimes, no, minsan pag international student ka, parang hindi naman iba yung treatment, no? But not directly na sinasabi sa'yo na tawag dito, na hindi ka magaling or something, di ba? Pero ang ginagawa namin sa school before, no, as an international student ambassador sa NSCC, is, you know, we speak up, no? So, as much as possible, ang ginagawa ko noon is, I set up yung mga parang table, parang during lunch break, to represent to, para malaman ng community ng school namin na meron kami international students. And we're part of this community, no, ng school. Just to, you know, yung mga Canadians, no, kasi usually, ang kinukuha talaga sa NSCC is priority talaga is yung mga locals, di ba? But, you know, to have a representation ng international students, mostly dyan kami active, no? Para at least malaman nila na we're part of this community and, you know, tao din kami na parang embrace us also. So, I mean, here in Nova Scotia, wala naman ako nakita talagang racist talaga, di ba? Pero tawag dito, sabi nga nila, ito nga talaga yung pinaka-friendliest, no, na province, no? So, wala akong problema. For example, sa labas ako, may tatanong ko sa isang, magtanong ka sa labas, maraming tutulong sa'yo. Di ba? I mean, wala talagang, parang feel ko welcome din naman. Welcome talaga tayo dito. Yun lang, Kap.
Thank you. Sir Raymond, napakabilis ng oras natin and madami kaming nakuhang insights and it's very inspiring story, Sir Raymond. And maraming salamat for the tips, especially if they're planning to immigrate here, they're planning to take a master's degree. Hindi lang sa Dalhousie, sa lahat ng mga university, if they're planning to do a master's degree, napakaganda yung mga tip na binigay niyo po sa amin, Sir Raymond. Sir Raymond, with regards to the BUHAY NURSE, kasi maraming mga nagkatanong sa akin, paano ba maging nurse diyan? Ano ba yung hospital settings ba diyan? Like, give us an idea, Sir Raymond, with regards to the hospital settings. Like, sa Pilipinas, kasi typical, yung doctor, pag nag-order, pwede ka ba mag-voice out if there's something wrong? Kasi sa Pilipinas, takot magsalita yung nurse sa doctor.
Oh, yes.
Diba yung parang, Doc, wag na lang. Okay lang po, Doc. Sabi kasi baka magalit si Doc. So, tas in terms of the care naman sa mga pasyente, Sir Raymond, ilan ba yung numbers of patient na hinahandle? Kasi sa Pilipinas naman, depende sa kung government ka or public, government or private ka, pwedeng 1:30, 1:50, 1:100, di ba? Diyan dito sa Halifax, Sir Raymond, ilan ba yung nurse-patient ratio? Yan.
Okay, so that's another good question, Joey. So, okay, kasi sa Pilipinas kasi we have private and public healthcare, no? Here in Nova Scotia, ang mga hospitals nila, they're under the government. So, lahat ng hospitals dito government 'yan. Even yung may mga sa mga county, mga hospitals doon, under ng government 'yan, under sila ng ano. So, anyway, with regards to the nurse-patient ratio, depende yan sa floor capacity. Then at the same time, depende din yan sa number of beds dun sa iba't ibang mga units. So, but hindi siya yung, I guess, yung sa Pilipinas kasi depende din kasi kung private or public. Kung public, expected doon ang nurse to patient ratio ay madugo. Oh. Parang naalala mo yung sa BMC, yung ano,
Correct.
yung sa Bicol Medical Center, yung nurse patient, kumbaga, hindi siya ganun kaano. Hindi naman siya ganun kadami. Pero ano naman siya, I mean, very fair naman. Sometimes yung ibang floor 1:4, sa morning or 1:3. Sa nights, pwedeng mag 1:5, 1 nurse to 5 patients or 4 patients. Sometimes it can go to 6 or 7, but it depends on the floor. Pero usually naman ang mga managers, case managers at saka yung mga nurse managers ng bawat floor, they try to check yung severity or yung workload. Kasi kaya nga meron tayong mga unions for nurses, for other for other professionals, para nakikita nila ron na when it comes yung sa trabaho, yung scope of practice or yung mismo yung trabaho natin, kung mabigat ba siya or magaan ba siya, pero doon nila nagigauge. Pero one thing for sure kasi is bawat unit kasi meron silang different number of patients. Depende na rin sa acuity level. So, although going back again to your question dun sa sa mga setting nga, yeah, I mean here in Nova Scotia, yun nga like what I said earlier, it's lahat nasa public, so government. So I think everyone is also aware na yung when it comes to healthcare, yung healthcare dito is very accessible sa Nova Scotia, free kasi siya. So yun din yung maganda rito. So I mean, as long as yung resident ka ng Nova Scotia, then at the same time meron kayong Nova Scotia health card, you would be able to gain access when it comes yung mga different healthcare needs mo. Although may ibang mga healthcare, it depends din sa prioritization yung case-to-case basis, like for surgeries, CT scan, yung mga diagnostic tests. It depends yun sa case-to-case basis din. Lalo pag emergency siya, then urgent siya, definitely nasa unahan ka. So ganun yung nila. Kumbaga may priority system naman.
Ayan. So Sir Raymond, with regards to the doctor and nurse, kasi
yes,
Pilipinas,
sorry about that, I forgot that one. Yes.
Okay, kasi sa Pilipinas pag hindi naman sa pag parang ang doctor is eto parang minsan yung mga nurse takot na magtanong kay doc kasi baka magalit or pwedeng pagalitan ka ng doctor, di ba? Shout out sa lahat ng mga nurses. Ayan.
So,
Sir Raymond,
yun naman yung difference dito sa Nova Scotia. Actually, it's a good thing that you pointed that one. My apologies, nakalimutan ko yung questions mong yan. So, when it comes to the nurse and the doctor relationship, somehow medyo nanibago ako dito sa Nova Scotia. Kasi like when we were previously working back home in the Philippines, yung setting kasi natin iba parang parang ang layo ng gap ng nurses and doctors. Parang naalala mo yun, Joey, kasi although sa ER ka, I mean, I remember you were working the ER. Nasa floor ako nag-work noon. Yung susunod ka sa doctor, by the time pag nagra-round sila, nakasunod ka, parang amo mo Parang ganun yung dating nun Tapos yung pag nagsalita ka, magrereklamo, yung parang magagalit sila. Yung mga, although I hope hindi naman lahat ng hospital sa Pilipinas ganun, pero in some instances may ganun, may superiority.
Yes.
May superiority complex. Kumbaga, I mean, magpakatotoo na tayo, may superiority complex talaga yung mga ibang yung ibang mga hospitals back in the Philippines. Here in Nova Scotia, somehow iba. Equal ang ng nurses and doctors. Although may ibang mga doctors, syempre hindi mawawala rin yung ego na nandun din yung kay paano syempre mas mataas sila. But still, when it comes to dealing with patients, kung may alam ka, pwede ka mag-suggest. And they value your suggestion. I remember ako when working in the hospital, if I have a patient na feeling ko, for example, meron siyang tawag dito, kung mga cardiac cases siya, so magre-recommend ka namang nursing interventions dun sa doctor na pwedeng gawin. Then at the same time, magsasuggest ka rin ng mga different interventions na pwedeng gawin. Change natin yung case. For example, may GI bleed yung pasyente mo. Nakita mo na meron na siyang parang black tarry stool or may bleeding na. So, i-report mo sa doctor. But at the same time, since routine mo na, nakagawian mo na ganito yung ginagawa, I remember usually you try to be proactive when it comes to patient care. So minsan sasabihin mo na sa doctor, Doc, would you like to start the panto drip? Or would you like to do the blood work now, the CBC, lights? So kumbaga, kung ano yung naano mo sa experience, pwede mong isuggest sa kanila. And for me, surprisingly, for the doctors, they're very open about it. And minsan sasabihin pa sa'yo, oh yes, kumbaga, ano pa sa'yo na parang, oh yes, kumbaga ano lang nila, sige, gawin mo na yan. Oh. Pero isusulat mo as verbal order. Pero ang ano kasi doon is, when it comes to communication, when it comes to relationship, bihira ako makakita na yung doktor ang taas nung ano niya. Kumbaga yung, hindi siya lumilevel dun sa ano. Kumbaga pantay-pantay lahat. Yun yung one of the things na nakita ko dito sa Nova Scotia when it comes to the healthcare system is that other professionals, whether it's a physiotherapist, occupational therapist, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, they try to collaborate or intercollaborate.
Talagang
And
parang
when it comes
teamwork.
to intercollaboration, lahat pantay-pantay. Kumbaga, ang role ng pharmacist, focus siya sa gamot. So, pag may nakita yung pharmacist, teka lang, yung prescribe doc na gamot medyo mataas yung dosage, hindi pwede sa liver niya to or hindi pwede dun sa, based dun sa blood work niya. So, magsasuggest yung pharmacist. But at the same time, yung doctor, hindi siya magagalit. Kumbaga, very appreciative pa yung doctor. Oh, thank you for pinpointing that one. Okay, so, gagawin ng doctor, follow yung suggestion ng pharmacist. Same thing with the physiotherapists, occupational therapists, social workers. So, ang maganda kasi sa Nova Scotia, yung when it comes to sa healthcare, yung sa intercollaboration, lahat nagfa-function.
Wow.
So walang kumbaga walang pataasan.
Wow.
Ang ano kasi dito is, ang main goal mo, yung patient. Kasi ano naman kayo, when it comes kasi dun sa bayaran, when it comes yung professional fee, may kanya-kanya namang may professional fee yung mga occupational therapists, doctors, nurses. So walang kumbaga walang sapawan ng work. Kumbaga bigayan. Yung
So na nakikita
yung
ko,
one of
Sir
the things
Raymond,
na
meron talagang
na observe ko. Then
So,
also,
talaga-
Joey, just to add, believe it or not, this is the first time when I came here in Nova Scotia na nakita ko, although up to now, hindi ako sanay na tatawagin mo yung doctor ng first name niya.
Oh.
For example, yung nurse, hey John, can you see this patient, blah, 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 blah. Parang, parang, tinan mo nga itong pasyente. Sa atin kasi sanay tayo na tinatawag natin yung doctor talaga. Kasi nga natin out of respect. Sa kanila kasi dito, common na sa kanila yung first name. Even yung doctor sasabihin pa sa, oh, don't call me Dr. Smith. Just call me John.
Yeah.
So, although I guess for me, hindi talaga ako komportable talaga tawagin talaga yung mga doctor ng first name nila. Kasi nga parang, yung siguro sa culture talaga natin, we have the culture of respect na you still acknowledge them with their title. Like ako sinasabi ko sa mga doctor na I'm acknowledging you on your title because you earned that one.
That's right. Yeah. Nakakatuwa, Sir Raymond, kasi guilty din ako niyan eh. Ako, palagi may kabit na kanya pagkausap ko, lawyer, attorney, or doctor, di ba? So, talagang nasa kultura ko din na mag-acknowledge yun. Pero dito talagang parang pantay na pantay, no? Tatawagan mo.
Oo, yes.
And at the same time, merong, based from your story, Sir Raymond, is nakikita ko yung teamwork ng every department and every department ng hospital is merong teamwork para
maganda maganda yung nila yung intra-collaboration talaga. As in kumbaga sa akin kasi working in hospitalist medicine unit in orthopedics, na observe ko when it comes sa intra-collaboration, bago nila i-discharge ang patient, kailangan may go signal yan sa iba't ibang mga department.
Ayun.
Then at the same time, pag may recommendation ng isang department or isang unit, yung main physician, kasi parati ang last say is yung main doctor. Whether the main doctor agrees or disagree, bihira mag-disagree ang main doctor. Pero normally kasi kung anong may nakita yung isa, sinusuportahan ng ibang mga professionals.
Ayun.
Kaya maganda yung relationship talaga.
Wow. Ayan, Sir Raymond, napakabilis ng oras natin. Gusto ko, Sir Raymond, before we end this live streaming and at the same time our KAPehan sa WhenINHalifax, napakabilis ng oras and marami pa akong gustong itanong with Sir Raymond. Baka pwede naman part 2 dyan. Sabi ka na. But anyway.
Just message me anytime. Walang problema sa akin, Joey.
Ayan. Gusto kong bigyan Sir Raymond ng chance, yung mga kasama natin dito sa ating KAPehan to ask question directly sa iyo po. Anyone would like to ask question? Mark, do you have question or? Good. Anyone? Manuel, Rod, si Russell na sagot ko yung tanong. Joseph, si Eileen Ay,
Question
Mark.
ko, Boss Joey.
Okay, Mark. Sige, Mark.
Para kay Sir Raymond, yung masteral mo ba, it will lead ba to any parang nursing management jobs here or admin jobs here sa Nova Scotia?
Oh yes, definitely. Malaking ano siya. Actually, yung iba kong mga colleagues na nag-masteral na, they're working as nurse managers on different floors.
Okay, that's good.
So, it definitely has a big bearing. And not to mention that one, salary-wise, sa sweldo, may konting dagdag yan. Kumbaga, yun yung mga one of the good things, I guess, working in Nova Scotia, whether it's in different department or different professionals, I mean, different stream or professions. Yung education mo, lalo na pag may mga higher education ka, like yung master's, doctorate, compensated ka doon. Kumbaga, they value that one kasi pinaghirapan mo yun.
Yun. Rod, do you have question, Rod?
Thank you.
Para kay sir.
Okay po.
Sir, kasi masteral po kayo tapos kung sakali kami mga postgrad ang kukunin namin, manageable po ba yung masteral into parang part-time working student? Kasi masteral kayo, yun na more on research. I mean,
that's a good question,
mahirap.
sir. So, yes, when it comes to taking the postgraduate studies, whether it's a masteral or doctorate, flexible siya kasi hindi lang naman full-time. They're also offering part-time kasi very considerate naman yung mga Nova Scotians when it comes to doing your education kasi hindi lahat makaka-full-time, particularly dun sa mga yung mga breadwinner ng family. So they have to consider they also have to work. So majority of the universities nag-o-offer sila ng part-time. Usually per part-time, they're offering it for 5 years. So you have the flexibility to finish the program within 5 years. So open naman sila. Kasi although the only difference is yung sa full-time kasi gusto nila tutok ka lang talaga dun sa studies mo. So they're only giving you like 2 years. So but I mean with regards to when it comes to program, it depends na rin kung anong stream ang kukunin. So they also offer part-time for most of the programs.
Sir Rod. Anyone?
Salamat po.
You're welcome.
Sino pa po? May question. Kasi Mark, meron ka pa, Mark? Wala na.
Kap Joey, can I have?
Yes, Russell.
Yes, thank you, Kap Joey. The question can also answer for the people who are already in Nova Scotia. This is out of the back question, is not regarding the course. It's about the living expenses again. How easy or how hard to find accommodation when I'm planning to enroll in Nova Scotia Community College? Madali lang ba o easy?
Hi, Sir Russell, no? For accommodation, marami ka namang makikita. Kasi since nandito ka sa, example, for here I'm just saying nandito lang sa Halifax area, no? Which is yung NSCC campus na nandito sa Halifax. Is meron namang kumbaga yung parang community dito, maraming apartments, marami rin nagpa-rent ng rooms. At hindi naman mahirap maghanap. So yun ang pero for the gaya ng advice ko before, no. Pagpunta mo dito if ever, ikaw lang mag-isa, mag-Airbnb ka muna and then try to check after yung mga rooms kasi minsan kasi maganda sa picture maganda yung room sa picture, mga ganyan, di ba? Pero pag mo hindi maganda yung neighborhood. So ang hirap mag-commit online, di ba? So yun lang. Pero for accommodation, may mahahanap ka naman, Sir Raymond. Sir Russell, walang problema dun.
Yes, Kap Mark and Kap Joey, can we approach you regarding this one before landing Nova Scotia? Inshallah next year.
For sure.
For sure.
The best, for sure, you can message me anytime. But the best then is get connected also with Settle East Coast. Kasi yung Settle East Coast is helping the newcomers. So ito yung difference noon na nung dumating si Raymond and dumating kami, walang Settle East Coast. Pero ngayon may Settle East Coast. We're in, ang dami mga volunteers. Nandun po din kami. We're helping the newcomers. Lalo na ngayon na kailangan mag-quarantine ng 14 days. So imagine, quarantine ka ng 14 days, tapos wala kang kakilala sa Halifax. Sabi ko nga sa Airbnb, kompleto na ricados eh. Meron ng lahat. May kusina, may laundry. Pero kung wala kang pagkain, paano yun? So you don't need to worry about that kasi meron tayong Settle East Coast na magiging runner nyo pagdating sa mga groceries. And nandito po kami to help as well. So the best way is send me a message, send a message to Mark as well, and we will send you a link. Yung link naman ay isang form yon na direct na mapupunta doon sa mga volunteers para tulungan po kayo. So may mga groups na magtutulong from welcoming, ang dami, sa accommodation, sa jobs, andun yung Settle East Coast. Kung papunta kayo dito sa Halifax or Nova Scotia. And a big shout out to East Coast Filipino Portal. So ayan, thank you, Russell. Sir Raymond, any additional inputs with regards to the question ni Sir Russell?
Sa question ni Sir Russell.
Regarding po doon sa paghanap ng mga accommodation po.
Sa akin kasi maganda yung advice kanina. You go first with the Airbnb para at least when you try to look for an apartment, mas maganda kasi kung makikita mo siya yung actual rather than yung sa picture lang. Kasi totoo yun na, makita mo sa picture maganda, but at the same time, once you see the actual yung pala may problema pala. So, maganda sa akin is yung Airbnb, but at the same time, kung meron kang kakilala, family or friends na pwede mong tuluyan muna for the first few days habang nag-a-adjust ka, that would be much better. Para at least kahit paano yung expenses-wise hindi ka medyo mamumblema until makahanap ka ng sarili mong apartment o yung matitirahan.
Totoo. Yan. Thank you, Sir Raymond. Special K, any insight or input, Sir Special K?
Wala naman, Kaps. Thank you lang. Another inspiring story. Mabuhay.
Ayun. Ayan. So yun, napakaganda ng ating kapihan sa WhenINHalifax. Naubos agad yung kape ko. So ayan, maraming salamat, Sir Raymond. Kulang ang isang tasa, dapat mga 3 tasa talaga tong kapihan eh. So ayan, maraming salamat, Sir Raymond, and to everyone that joined us sa ating streaming sa WhenINHalifax Facebook and YouTube channel, and to all the groups na watch party tayo sa Pinoy Canada Immigration Forum and AIPP Community. Maraming salamat. So, ang ating kapihan sa WhenINHalifax ay every Thursday po, 11 a.m. Halifax time, 10 p.m. naman po sa Manila. Meron nag-message sa akin, Kap, gusto ko mag-join pero hindi pa ako nagkakape ng gabi. Okay lang. Okay lang naman. So, but anyway, it's a virtual kapihan. It's like kwentuhan lang, just to give you ideas and share experience. Sabi nga, mas madali mong maiintindihan ang isang programa or anything through a story. So, kapihan is kwentuhan para mas madali mong maintindihan kung paano makapunta dito sa Canada and matupad ang iyong pangarap na makapunta dito sa Canada. So everyone na nagsumali sa atin, maraming salamat, especially sa ating YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And that's it, mga Kap. I'm going to sign out ang ating YouTube and Facebook and yung mga nasa webinar natin. Huwag kayong aalis, may picture